welcome. My name is Brian Holcomb. I'm the curator at the Moss Arts Center. And this is special for me because this is the start of my second year of programming here at the Moss Art Galleries. And just for those of you who are new, the galleries do new exhibitions in the fall, spring, and summer, along with public art projects in our more open spaces. For example, right now we have Connor McGrady's murals in the corridor and also on the Turner Street, which will be on view until the summer. And Connor will be visiting us March 22nd through 25th, where he'll be giving a talk about his mural. Yanira and Anne are the third and fourth artists in residence, sponsored by the Living Learning Program Fellowships. These partnerships help us bring internationally renowned talent to Virginia Tech for 2 weeks, allowing the visiting artists the time to experiment and be ambitious with on-site installations, sharing their experience and practice with the Virginia Tech students and community. For the past week, Yanira and Anne have been working in the galleries for their upcoming solo exhibitions, opening next Thursday, so please come back and join us. And I would also like to thank Mosaico for hosting Anne Samat and the Creativity and Innovation District for hosting Yanira Collado. Also, thank you to the School of Architecture and Design faculty, Clive Oyster and Chris Pritchard, their first and second year students, and building construction faculty, John Bluey, and his class for working with Yanira in the creation of several pieces for her exhibition. Thank you to the exhibitions team, Laura, Rudy, Mandy, our graduate assistants, Caroline and Eva, for handling all the things planned and unexpected. We still have a week for the opening, so please come back. Lastly, to all the production, patron, marketing, facility teams at Moss for making everything easier. So Yanira Collado is a cultural practitioner whose multimedia collages, paintings, installations, juxtapose and layer reclaimed materials such as textiles, furniture, text, photographs, and construction debris. Collado considers these discarded artifacts fragments of civilization with inherent geographic histories, processes, and economies. She looks to sacred geometry to encode histories of artifacts and produce abstract forms, and the works result in brightly colored patchwork quilts that are wall-mounted, leaning, or inserted into cavities of doors and furniture. Her textiles become an act of resistance and alchemic transcendence of material culture and history. Yanira lives and works in Miami. She studied at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and in 2022, she participated in artist residencies at Art Pace in San Antonio, Ulite Arts in South Beach, Florida, the Joan Mitchell Center in New Orleans, and Collado's work was included in the El Trienio Estamos Bien at the Museo del Barrio in New York in 2021. Anne Samat works with fiber and weaving techniques from Southeast Asia. Samat creates technically intricate and colorful sculptural wall reliefs and anthropomorphic figures that engage with issues of gender and identity. Her practice blurs art and craft categories by disrupting traditional weaving patterns with embedded everyday objects such as gardening and kitchen tools, plastic ornaments, and hardware. Samat collects and employs these objects to match with personal feelings and memories of family and friends to fill her totemic avatars with identity and love. Anne lives and works in New York, and Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. She's formerly trained in the Malaysian craft of Pua Kumbu. Samat received a BA from the Mara Institute of Technology, and in 2020, at the inaugural Asian Society Triennial, commissioned her large installation, Follow Your Heart Wholeheartedly. And if you notice, the title of our exhibition is number 2.
It's number 2.
That's right.
Yeah.
So welcome to you
Thank you.
both and everything. So I, would just like to start off with talking about your first week at Virginia Tech and what you've been working on. Yanira, can you tell me more about like your exhibition that's opening next week and how you've been working with Virginia Tech students?
Yeah, I thank you so much for everybody who's gotten their hands dirty and who has been so willing, even when you were confused about why you were there. And thank you for the willingness, and thank you for contributing. I've been working with the art and architecture department with the students there, and been introducing them to my labor, my practice, my ideas, and letting them influence me too, letting them kind of intervene where usually I'm all alone with my work and I'm making the decisions, right? And I'm finding ways to intervene in my own thinking. But here, I'm asking them what they think, giving me opinions, showing them different ways I make marks and why I decide to make marks this way. This idea of impression, right? What is an impression? Things that are embossed or embedded in textiles. So really, it's been interesting to have this this experience of speaking about my work while I'm making my work and navigating 20 to 25 people who are willing to help me with the labor. So that's really fulfilling. The other thing is that I always think that my work should be of service. And this has really been an opportunity where I can be of service through sharing my labor and my experience. I feel that the show really is about the community here, the students. And when you come to see the show, you'll see their handprints. You'll see how they've made impressions in the work too. So thank you for the experience.
Yeah, so some of the students will be helping you construct some of the quilts that we'll be taking out to, after the show opens, the Slusher Ryan barn to install and photograph. And then also, too, is the impressions the students are making with the carbon paper will be installed on a large platform in progress, similar to your Miami solo show as well. And you just came back from India, right?
Yeah.
Where you installed like your largest installation at the Kochi Biennale.
Yeah.
And you're kind of working on another piece
another
that kind of
giant
continues
piece.
that.
Yeah. This is interesting because when Yanira explained about her process, I'm totally the opposite. She's dealing with a few students, maybe like 40 students within a day. While me, myself, is for the time being, I rather be all by myself in the studio, concentrate into that particular big piece. And again, I spoke to Laura last 2 weeks, right, Laura? And we discussed about what type of program or what kind of activities that I want to do here. And I did mention to her, I said, hey, Laura, I just came back from India, which is I deal with hundreds of people over there. So I think it is a time for me to basically reevaluate everything and stay focused, me, myself, and my work, and create everything by using my own 2 hands. So we are totally in the opposite position, but however, you are all invited to come to my studio anytime if you want to go through the process with me. So I'm not trying to talk about, okay, leave me alone. No, it's not like that. But we are going through totally the opposite process over here. She sharing every techniques and everything with all of you, while me, myself, is a time for me to sit down, evaluate everything again, and focus on everything all. In order to produce a better, bigger work, I think it is important process or time for me to be alone, me and my work. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Yin and yang. Yeah.
Yeah, because and you've been generous enough to where we could have like the curtains open to where so that people can see the installations like in
Yeah.
progress, which is nice because also it's like it's unexpected, but it's also very generous of you both to
Yeah.
kind of add that transparency to the process behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And also, like in close inspection of your work, you notice that the humanized sculptures, like in your exhibition, are often like paired with a large wall hanging piece and a smaller freestanding floor piece in
Yeah.
front. Can you tell us a little bit about the relationship
Yeah.
between these two and their meaning?
Well, it is, it is kind of like most of my work is based on love. I know that, like what we said yesterday, people said, oh, it's very cheesy about love, But I believe that, it's not just me, I think for everybody, we believe that love is actually a fundamental core for all of us. It's like blood running in our veins, So every pieces that I have, I'm going to have like 4 pieces over here, and you can see that every single work is actually, you can see the relationship, the connection between father and daughter, mother and daughter, love between friends as well. Because again, I always believe that, no matter what we do, especially, if you look at the problem, not just in America, but all around the world, including my country in Southeast Asia as well, there's a lot of issues, like general issues that around us, which are kind of like scary as well, when we talk about it. And I believe that if the fundamental core is there, if the sincere relationship between human beings is there, which is love, I think we can tackle this problem. And the basic fundamental thing of everything is if we love each other, learn to respect each other. It doesn't mean that we need to respect everything, but at least we try to understand each other. I think a lot of things in this world can be solved easily. And it takes time, of course, everything takes time. But as long as we try to understand each other based on of love, I think we can tackle things, eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Yanira, the title of your exhibition is Zafa, a spell working of temporal geometry. And so, when looking at like your works, we see like these repeated geometric patterns of diamonds and triangles. How did geometry and pattern come to play such a crucial part in your work, and what do these geometries symbolize for you?
I started noticing the patterns in textiles and in architecture. I grew up in sewing factories. When my mother migrated to this country, I had the experience of watching women and men cut patterns and bring them together. And then the men in my family would construct these off-site places with cement and bricks to then, for these women to come and then construct textiles. So, I'm not going to pretend this is not happening.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. If we've got to fix you, we got to fix it. It's okay. And I think it's okay to laugh.
I was just glad it wasn't me. I was like wondering, my brother. Yeah. So what are you talking about?
I have no idea. But yeah, geometry.
Sorry.
And so and then as I got older, I've endeavored to see where these patterns come from, right? And who are they tied to, and what kind of people were they tied to? And inevitably, I started looking at all these patterns that became mass-produced, right? But that have geographical origin and cultural origin. And what happens to these geometrical forms when they get mass-produced and reproduced, and we forget that they're tied to something, right? And then I started looking at how a lot of these patterns address spirituality, right? A practice of spirituality, or they're definitely markers of identity, and they're tied to cultural rights many times. And I started to want to then look at objects that are imbued with this energy, right? So I started looking at material culture, and I started including that in my work too. But I'd love to go back to what Anne was saying about love, that above everything, when we produce work, it is love. It is an act of love. And I think sometimes we forget to talk about that as artists. We forget to talk about the process. The process is something we love. The process brings us to a conclusion, and that's usually when we can talk about the content of the work, right? So one of the things that I blush sometimes about saying, and I've asked some of the kids that I've spoken to not to talk about, but it is because it's supposed to be cheesy, is that when you walk into the exhibition and you see the purple piece, I'm talking, that you'll see if you go to the exhibition, there's a big purple piece that you see, the front piece, and I'm trying to talk about the paisley form and the trajectory of the paisley form, and but the underlying love for that piece is that it's purple because I'm also thinking about Prince, the artist named Prince. And it is a goodbye letter. Yeah. So love should never be unspoken about. And I agree with that, Anna. Yeah.
And we have to make sure as well, it's not just about the finished product. It's not about the destination. It's the journey that we've been through, we have to go through in order to go to the destination, enjoy every moment. Yeah. And weave in between with love. I think that's very important. Yeah.
So thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah. It's a bit cheesy, I know.
And you also use these diamond patterns that kind of come from the weaving techniques. I mean, and both of you with the practice, both your practices involve a lot of labor and comes ritual. I mean, when did you come to weaving and could you expand on the symmetry and the geometry that's comes through your work?
If you look at carefully, especially for those 3 will be 4 pieces in the gallery next week. If you look at carefully, you can see most of my woven pieces. There's actually a square shape, or I call it diamond shape. And that is actually a motif that I basically practice for quite some time. And that motif is actually from the east coast or the north state of my country called Terengganu. I don't know whether you heard it before or not, but a lot of professional weavers or senior weavers, or we call it otai, Penenon otai, that means a very experienced weavers in my country, they will use this particular motif or diamond shape into their weaving practice. So I basically bring that or put that motif into my work as well, because I found that it is very interesting. Other than it is a motif from the up north state of my country, it is also a motif which is very important, the Islamic design, which is, we know the Islamic design is all about geometric pattern. And as a Muslim myself, it's not, for me, it is quite interesting to bring it out and share it with the world, about how beautiful this motif is. A simple, sometimes a beautiful thing in life is the simple thing in life. Like, for instance, the shape of the diamond shape. So that's the reason why that I put it into my work as well. Yeah.
And your use of color with the different bands, because I've noticed it's like sometimes you play off the reds and the greens to kind of create these contrasting shapes, but everything seems to have a symmetry about it and expanding
Yeah.
from the center.
Yeah, it is. I try to break that rules actually, because yesterday is very interesting. I mean, one of the students mentioned that about my work. It's very balanced. It's very like symmetry, and I think it's when I think about it again, I think it's because of, my background is actually I used to be a science student. So my background is actually additional mathematics. I learned additional mathematics, biology, chemistry, physics. And when you learn about that subject, you have to be sharp all the time. You have to be, it's balance all the time. That means 1 + 1 definitely goes to 2. H2O definitely goes to water. And then I started to feel like, I think because of that discipline for many years, and it's embedded inside of me, like everything, every single work that I produce is always need to be balanced, But I found that every now and then, I ask myself, I said, how long do I want to go with this discipline? Because sometimes if you ask people to eat chicken or fish every day, they're going to get tired of it. And I started to feel that way. Because when I look at my work, it's all like balance. I say, hey, be crazy a little bit. Try to tip it off a little bit. And I promised to one of the students yesterday, my future work, I will try to run from that concept. So if you see in the future my work is, in the nearest future, my work will be tip off a little bit, I think you understand the journey or the concept that I try to bring in the future. Yeah.
And you have another week.
Well, put it this way, I think in that matter, I'm quite...
You could just hang up one.
Yeah, exactly.
Call it a day.
I got that idea.
Yeah, but
Ask them to come and help me out. Just like follow your heart and do whatever you want.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, and teach them how to weave on the spot. Yeah. Break that symmetry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Yanira, I mean, this is also nice to have you two here at the same time, because you use like asymmetry, like
interesting.
and your work kind of moves towards entropy, like fragmentation and falling apart. Yet you still have a balance too when the works come about. So it's like how do you use this disruption of balance, in your work? Like, how is that a strategy?
I've always felt more comfortable in off-centered situations.
The opposite than me.
I'm not a chaos chaser, but I do feel it provokes me to think more, and there's just a harmony. So many other things of my life, so many trajectories of my life influence that. But also, for me, because I am speaking about architecture, and I like to think about, when I speak about architecture in my work or I reference it, it's a way of mourning architecture as well. I want to expose the structural sensibilities of these structures. And I also, things are off-centered many times because they're fragmented, they're tattered. And when we find fragments, or when textiles are fragmented, they're off-center a little bit. And so I'm referencing that too. But visually, I tend to gravitate towards the off-centered or broken things. It also is, there were 10 years of my life where I wasn't producing any visual work. And I started dancing, and I started picking up folk dancing and partner dancing, and I started teaching it and helping people recover from certain situations through movement. And movement really has pushed me to create rhythm, ¿cómo se dice? Puntos de, an off balance, or in rhythm, right? So when I'm thinking about installation, I'm thinking about how is someone going to move in this space. And I don't want you to move rigidly. I want you to move in such a way where you're always engaging, but keeping it very quiet at the same time.
Yeah, when everybody gets to visit your exhibition next week, you'll definitely see that there is the sculptures and the assemblages. It changes the viewer's movement. It's very much about how they move through the space and what they see first and what they see last, and how the platform, we see the back of it and everything's hidden, but when we go around, it's like a whole nother story with those patterns and different rhythms and stuff, especially with the different students coming in, because each one comes with their own their own working, their own hand movements and stuff. And then you tie it together with color and geometry.
Yeah.
But you both use like everyday materials. I mean, found, bought, and there's certain aspects of it that, say with your soap sculpture, it's like, what does the soap symbolize? Because you use it to create these architectural structures. And it is a bought item, whereas a lot of the other pieces in the fabrics are found and then fragmented. How's the soap play in your work, and how is it different when you're dealing with a mass-produced product?
Yeah, I have to buy the soap. I can't just find it because no one's just throwing away soap like that. But the soap is a Quaba soap made on the island of Quisqueya, which is the shared island of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And we use it to launder for our clothing. But we also use it to ward away spells. So if you tie somebody's face, if you tie somebody's face to the soap, that person can't hex you, right? We also use it to wash away certain sins and many spiritual rituals. So the Quaba soap is really there, usually in a structure that represents some sort of symbolic gesture to the. It's usually structured in such a way that it's a form that symbolizes strength, right, or a barrier, and what it's doing is protecting the narratives embedded in the works. So I use a lot of Caribbean spirituality in the work. And I also allude to it in the work itself when it's embedded.
Nice.
And also the embedding is with the use of the carbon paper and the transfer and patterns. And could you tell us about some of the patterns that you use and their meanings? Because you were explaining to the students the other day is how you research Persian architecture.
Yeah.
And those motifs.
Yeah.
How did that interest come about?
It's because of tracing the genealogy of people in the Caribbean, really. Most of the patterns that you find embedded in the work are, I think of them as biological fractals at this point, right? These symbols that you can trace back to the Congo or to the Middle East or to the Moor Spaniards, right? So all of these people who make up what is now the Caribbean. And most people wouldn't imagine the Caribbean to have a Middle Eastern influence, but it does. We've had a lot of migration there since the 1920s. The current president of the United States, of the Dominican Republic has a Lebanese background, not Syrian. The other day I said to someone Syrian by mistake. I was thinking of Syria lately. I have it in my mind lately, but Lebanese. So there are a lot of peoples that make up the Caribbean and influence our culture, our food, and make up who we are, and continue to make up who we are. So that is a way of being or having a much more broader and honest and bigger, in-depth look at our makeup, our history.
And speaking of history and materials, because you also frequent hardware stores, dollar stores,
Yeah.
To collect your materials, and so what made you choose to use materials such as like toy soldiers,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
fragments?
Yeah.
You're also using fragments, but also you're combining them to create these large assemblages.
Yeah, like, I think now I have a new title here. They call me the Queen of Home Depot. Yeah. I mean, I'm coming from a country, from Malaysia. We do not have Home Depot. And I remember in 2019, that was the first time I arrived in New York. And I was doing my residency in Pixie in upstate New York. And I told them, I said, what I need is the DIY shop. And then they said, okay, we have the big one. So they drove me to Home Depot. And I said, hallelujah, that's my new playground. And seriously, I mean, the rakes that you have over here is as big as an elephant, like that big, you know? And I'm thinking like, I can create a lot. I can come up with a lot of new things from that. So we are talking about, you know, I'm using the materials that, you know, basically I collected from everywhere, not just DIY, not just Home Depot, but if I can basically get it or gather it from by the side of the road, I will do it as well. And now I have a new system which is more organized, which is I make use of my family, which means, you know, in the WhatsApp family, I said, I need you to find me this. And then I said, spread the words. And you know what? It's magic. WhatsApp can help you out. And then within 2 weeks, I got all my materials everywhere. And then the best part about it is I also into recycle, upcycle material. So that means if you go and see my work next week, you know, you can find that's not just you know, new or brand new materials that you can find in thrift shop, what is that, dollar store over here, or Home Depot. There is a lot of upcycle, you know, recycled material into it as well. And to be specific, for instance, if you look at carefully, you will find a few, you know, many strings of toy soldiers. I'm sure that you guys, I don't know whether you played with it or not. Yeah. The significant story behind it is actually I'm coming from a very big family, 10 of us, and I'm number 8. And we are talking about I'm coming from a very humble, basically poor family. And my mother, full-time housewife, and my father, just a normal security guard. And in order to, you know, to make sure that we are, you know, the 10 siblings stay together under the same roof, in the same room. Basically, my mom just bought a few bags of these cheap toy soldiers and put right in the middle of the room. I'm not going to cry, but this is actually a journey towards my, you know, beautiful childhood. But back then, you know, you basically didn't know anything, you know, that your mom put everything right in the middle of the room and you started to play together, you know. It is actually a journey as well, a personal journey. When I think it back, it's sort of like how clever my mother was by that time, because that's the only time that, you know, we can get together and play together. And that's also the period where you start to learn about you know, sharing things, you know, and tolerance, give and take. And you didn't know that. I didn't know that when I was younger. But now when I look back, I saw how powerful that little thing, You know, it's sort of like that, just the little toy, cheap plastic toy soldiers that brought us together, me and my brothers and sisters getting closer because of that. And now, like today, every now and then when we get together, we will sit and talk about it. Hey, do you remember like 20 years back, you know, or 30 years back when we were a child, when we were, you know, playing together and learn things about love. Again, we're talking about cheesy subject here, isn't it? But that's the reality of it. So I think for many years now, upcycle, recycle, found object, Home Depot things, it becomes, you know, a very important materials that I incorporate into my work. And I think I will going to use it for more years to come, that's for sure, and becomes my trademark now, you know, the Home Depot queen. Yeah.
But also the works, you know, you said serve as like tributes, and the reason why I was asking Anne this question when we were working, because you have all these dog tags that are on the same, and that for me is like I was connecting the two, but then also you were saying how these were made during the pandemic.
Yeah, it's over there, isn't it? That's from Romania. Okay, if you look at carefully, you will find, I think there are a few hundred dog, what is that? Is it dog tags? I don't know what do we call that.
It's just an identified tags that soldiers
and if you look at it carefully, you will find names and countries actually there. And I produced most of the work for the exhibition during the pandemic. And I was in my studio one day and I was thinking like, hey, you know, we are going through a very serious situation. We are talking about everybody all around the world. It's actually, you know, we went through and we're still going through that period now. And I said, what is the best way for me to, you know, to pay respect or pay tribute to all the victims? So I said, the best way is just for me to just do a bit of research and then put the real victims of COVID-19 pandemic into my work. So in a way, it's basically I'm paying tribute to them, you know, that because of them, we are here. You know, they passed away, and because of them, we got all the, you know, we got vaccinated because of that. So it is, I'm paying homage to all the victims. So all of my work in the gallery, if you look at carefully, you will find it everywhere. So it's actually for me to say thank you, to pay respect, to pay tribute to those victims. Yeah.
So, I know this is a segue. You know, I kind of want to go back to like your beginning of your journeys as like artist, like when you decided that you wanted to be an artist, and was there something that you would like to share, because we talked about journey, that where you find yourself here today, because in here you mentioned too, it's like, one of the students asked you during the semester, when did you know that you wanted to do this? So didn't even mention like being an artist and stuff, because they were looking at the work and it was obviously being introduced to different ways that we make art. But when did you know that you wanted to be an artist?
Yeah, I love that question.
Me too.
It's such a, we forget to love, to that place of love, right? When did you want to be an artist? And it starts from a place of love, falling in love with the art making. I was 5, and I was sitting in my kindergarten class, and we had to remember, you know, we had a quiz on our colors. That was a big test back then. You had to memorize all your colors, and I got them all right. And then we got these little diplomas that we had to fill out, and I was drawing in my diploma. It was a little girl and a little boy, and they were holding crayons. And this is where that spirituality in the work comes to play with me. Is that I had something came over me and said, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm going to be an artist. I'm going to create, and I'm going to push around colors. it made sense to me. And I've always wanted to be an artist ever since then. And even when I wasn't making work for those 10 years, I was still studying an art form. And dancing helps me now elaborate a lot of this visual work and really grounds me in my motives. I see how music, ritual, and dance reinforces identity, has that spiritual component, because when you are moving, you are no longer where you were in your head. It has that power to change, and it really allows me to say, okay, when I'm producing this work, is it always going to be in a white box where nobody has access to it? Or am I really in the community as music would be, as ritual would be? Again, thank you for this opportunity to be here, because this is exactly what I want to do. I want to practice this, my work of being in the community and about the community. So, yeah, that's my experience.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, as for me, again, I wanted to be, when I was 5, 6 years old, I knew from the very beginning that I loved to do something, in a creative world, which is play with colors, play with textures and so and so. But I was 6, 7 years old by that time. I didn't even understand what is the meaning of artist. But I know that from that very young age, I'm kind of like towards that kind of field. And to cut long story short, again, my family, especially my mother and my siblings, knowing that I'm coming from a science background, they said, hey, you got a very bright future to be a doctor, to be an architect, and to be others, like more stable career in the future. And by the age of 17, by that time I remember in the evening, my father just came back from work, and he basically asked me, he basically reminded me that I have to send the form back to the university. So what kind of course that I want to pursue, what kind of career that I want to go to. I was a little bit scared by that time, because I know the expectation from my family. They want me to be a doctor, they want to be this and that. And I look at my father and I say that, Dad, I want to pursue art and design. And you know what? He said to me, follow your heart. Follow your heart wholeheartedly. And that's the reason why that, my big first exhibition in New York, actually, I used that title, follow your heart wholeheartedly. And the show it went very well. And because of that, I want to bring that kind of spirit. I want to bring that kind of energy to this show over here. And that's the reason why that you see the title of it is Follow Your Heart Wholeheartedly too. It's because of that is the magic words or sentence that my father kind of like granted to me. And because of that, I feel very fulfilled. I'm very, very happy that I'm living in my dream now. And I want to share with the younger generation, like all the students over here as well. If I can do that, I want to spread that word again to all of you. Like, follow your heart wholeheartedly. Because if this, it worked for me, and I believe that, that magic word will work for you as well. And up till now, I keep telling and sharing my story and my journey with everybody. Is because at the end of the day, the person that's going to make a decision is you. You can discuss with anybody else, but at the end of the day, you are the one who's going to make a decision for you, because it's your life. Yeah.
It's a question you have to keep asking yourself. But
Yeah.
thank you both for choosing to be artists and being here today. Now's the time that I would like to open it up to the audience if anybody has any questions for Yanira or Anne.
Brian, I'd like to follow up on your last question.
Sure.
But first, I would express my annoyance at having to wait to see this.
Then that's okay.
Anyway, and I think this is particularly important for all of us young people. I can think of a young person about more than 60 years ago that was a weaver. And then she discovered an incredible fiber artist, Abakanawitz.
Her first name is Magdalena. Her last name
Magdalena
is Abakanawitz.
Oh,
So,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that changed her life and her direction, and the weaving became art.
Yeah.
So anyway, the obvious question, and I think it's important for all of us to have our heroes. So the way I would like to follow up on Brian's question is, who are your heroes in terms of art? Is there somebody, an artist, that you discovered along the way and wow, that had an incredible impact on your work?
Right. I would say the first artists were the women in the factories putting things together, though they never saw themselves as artists. Me as a little person observing them, I certainly thought that they were artists. These things, all these components came together, and then you would wear this thing, and then, the other, there were several artists, but two of them really, Mark Rothko and Robert Rauschenberg really influenced me. Rauschenberg for the courage to bring all these all these fragments together, and the way he treated textiles too. I had so much respect for that because usually we're very careful with textiles, and the fact that he would just bear into them. Also the cardboard pieces where he would just lay them out. I use a lot of cardboard in my work too. And the fact that I could see, I just enjoyed seeing how they were handled, right? The history embedded in that cardboard, the found, God knows it could have been thrown out. And just enjoying, giving me a space to observe and meditate on where this material could have been, And the other person, of course, Mark Rothko. I told some of the students that when I saw Mark Rothko in art history books, I thought, this is me being a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
That's the first time I saw Mark Rothko. It's like, okay, right, a couple of colors together, what big deal. And then I went to the Art Institute, and you have to go through the museum to go through some of your classes, and I walked up to one. And it was the first time I have ever had a spiritual experience looking at a piece of work. I was compelled, I just wanted to hit the ground with my knees. And I don't know if I wanted to pray or not, but I had a spiritual experience, and that really influenced what another aspect of my work is, to create a meditative place to contemplate history.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty interesting because mine is definitely Antonio Gaudi. I think it's because of, if we study back about the history of his life, he always kind of like refer Mother Nature as his muse or as his teacher. And I think based on that, Antonio Gaudi, what he believes, Mother Nature is always the best teacher for him. I believe the same thing too. I mean, I don't have any specific idol when it comes to my work. Why I say that is because I'm coming from a third world country, very small country, Malaysia, and we don't have a real textile artist or the artists that really practice their work using fiber or materials like that. So I struggled from the very beginning to find that idol, to find that muse. At the end of the day, again, as I said, I share the basic fundamental core as, with Antonio Gaudi. Mother Nature has always become my idol, will always become my teacher. And because I realized at the end of the day, if I want to come up with something new, something original, something different, I rather struggled, I rather find the way, find the materials, and work with it and bring out something new. I mean, it's nice to have, a muse or again a subject matter. By the end of the day, I always believe that if I want to create something new, something better for myself, I have to do it myself. So that's why for me is, for me, the basic fundamental core is I'm sharing with him, but I don't have any specific, idol, frankly speaking. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Anne, and this piece on the right here, or your piece, you'll have something similar at the gallery. Can you tell the story of this little, looks like a little man or a little totem or something
yeah.
in front?
Yeah.
What's the inspiration behind that?
It is actually, that is the one that's actually in the gallery.
That's the one?
Yeah, that's the one in the gallery. And next, this is, I believe, I produced this work in 2019 or 2020, I think. And, the work that I'm doing now, the work that I produce in Kochi Biennale, the big one, is actually based on this little guy. And for me, I always believe that, that's kind of like a mother behind, and that's a child in front. And the reason why I do that is always, like, again, through my experience, I'm kind of like, when I was younger, when I was a kid, I was kind of like, I'm more like outdoor type of person. When my mother said, no, don't do that, I will do it anyway, But at the end of the day, I always believe that that's always them, either my mother or my father will be behind me, will be protecting me no matter what I do. Of course, they always say no, everything, especially my mother. You just want to open your mouth just to say, Mom, can I? No. You don't even, the sentence is not even complete yet. You just said, Mom, can I? No. But again, I think, this particular piece, the story or the narrative behind it is based on that little journey when I was younger. So at the end of the day, I always believe that, you do whatever you feel is right for you. And trust me, at the end of the day, they're always either your parents, either your siblings, they're always there for you. They will back you up. So that's the reason why that when you look at this specific work, that's a little totem there. And the big kind of like anthropomorphic figure behind is sort of like always kind of like protecting you. Even though they say no, but they'll always be there. So, you know, it's not nice to be in that position when you want to do something, people say no to you. But again, hey, you know, I think I'm not the only one. You know, there's a lot of people out there. You, John, maybe one of them too. But your parents say no, you just do it anyway. So, but yeah, the you know, at the end of the day, it's always, again, as I said, it's always like, you know, it's our duty as well to protect our younger generation. So the easiest way to put it is always like, you're not alone. You're not alone. There are always people behind you. There are always, you know, sort of like a safety blanket that will defend you no matter what. Yeah. Thank you.
Laura?
Yanira, you spoke about stopping art after 10 years or so and teaching dance. I wonder if you could talk a little more specifically about how that's influencing the work that you're doing in Mississippi and that project.
Oh, yeah.
It's tangentially related, but I just thought it might be nice to hear more about that influence.
I stopped making work for about 10 years. I had it. That's it. Because I'd been studying. I've been studying. I've been studying art since I was a kid. And so what happens when you are not studying? Well, you have all these professors in your head. And that's not a horrible thing. Please don't stop studying. What I'm saying is enjoy the journey, you know. You don't know. You can learn in so many ways, you know. So I stopped creating because I couldn't anymore without it being interrupted by somebody else's voice or something else's voice. And that was the best thing for me, really, because then I'm still a creator. I'm still a cultural practitioner. So I picked up movement and dancing because I have always danced. This piece here is about dance, actually, even though it looks very rigid. It is about the cultural disruption in the Dominican Republic, but I'll speak to you later about that. So I needed to do something, and I picked up many different dances, and I lived in Argentina for a while, off and on, in South America, and I went to London to study a movement as well, and then I started teaching movement, and I started teaching children who are blind and visually impaired movement, and I started to see how this art form heals or helps to open up a place for healing. Because I don't heal people, and I'm not a therapist, but the opportunity to communicate non-verbally in a joyful manner, the opportunity to work your body, right? To push your body creates this opportunity for healing, for growth. Why? Dancing is a place of, many people don't like to dance in public because it is one of the ultimate, most vulnerable art forms, right? We're vulnerable a lot of times as artists, visual artists, but to expose your body, right, and to have somebody possibly ridicule it, we all probably have memory of that. And it's a triggering point. But to bring your body to a place of vulnerability, then to practice these movements and rebuild your mind through your body, that's what I saw this practice of movement do for people, right? I always say we're taking the body to where the mind would best benefit, right? We're going to take your body there first, and then your mind will follow. So then I had this opportunity to propose a project at the Mississippi Art Museum. Then I started doing art, and then a couple years later, I had this opportunity to send in a proposal to the Mississippi Art Museum. And it was based on healing, right? It's a project that should be based in the community, and they would love it if it included healing. And I proposed this project where I'm going to look at 3 places of trauma. I'm going to look at couples who have been affected, intimacy has been affected because one of the person is suffering breast cancer or going through the removal of a breast because of breast cancer. and how that affects the intimacy and trust in that relationship. So we're going to, through partnership dancing, we're going to create physical ways to rekindle that and to make it a safe place for both people in that couple. Another place that we're looking at is family members who have lost a child due to violence. And so it's very heavy, it's very loaded, and it's work that I love to do. I do this when I'm not creating. Again, I want to be of service. And it does involve the arts. It does involve rhythm and pattern and all the stuff that shows up visually in my work is in music, is in creating choreographies, is in creating safe places to recover from something, which a lot of the work, a lot of things I'm talking about in my work is points of recovering or reconciling disruption in history. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about that project.
Interesting.
I could talk about it forever, but I'm not going to because we got to go home. So, but yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have another question. I appreciate you bringing up like heaviness, and I also thought of heaviness when Anne was speaking about the pandemic and kind of processing that in an artistic way. Do you find that you're creating art in spite of or because of that heaviness? Do you find energy from it, or is it exhausting and it's something that you have to work through? Does that make sense?
Yeah, complete
Yeah,
sense,
yeah,
but I'm just
yeah.
trying to see if Anne would answer that first, or me.
Mika.
Okay.
Yeah.
I find, okay, so again, going back to dancing, right? Dancing is a way of healing through joy. And I always try to not sensationalize the history, so not exploit it. So you don't see figures, you don't see the body in my work. That's my way of protecting that history, right? I always find in traumatic occurrences, we find a way to grieve and move on. And I'm focusing a lot on that reconciliation, on that point where we move on, right? What do we create as people, as civilizations, as artists to move forward? And so I focus a lot on that. I have to speak about the history, right? In order to talk about what we create to move forward. And we create rituals, we create dances, we create social events, right? And so a lot of that is what I'm focusing on, but we do have to speak about the history in order for this to make sense.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing up that question. With the project in Mississippi, I'm focusing a lot on joy. We're going to dance.
Yeah.
We're going to move forward.
Yeah.
We're going to dance a lot.
Yeah. I mean, for me, myself, is I remember that I have to basically put it like this, for the last 10 years, I was actually looking after my mother. And even though I had the opportunity, I think for the last few years to expand my career out of my country, which is in my country, you can reach only a certain level. It's you know, it's sad, but the reality, it is like that, and that's the reason why that I grabbed the opportunity now to be in New York, to see how further I can go, you know, as an artist. But again, back to that, you know, question, and I was looking after my stepmother for the last 5 years, I suppose, and unfortunately she passed away about 4 years ago. And soon after that, my baby brother, you know, he had chronic diabetic. I mean, he's diabetic. So again, my career stopped there because of, I feel it's my responsibility to look after my baby brother. And I remember that when he was really sick, you know, he mentioned to me, he said, "Yeah, you basically have to stop your career for a while because you were looking after mother and now you look after me. Promise me when everything is basically, become normal again, you just go and grab the opportunity to further your career. So the way that I been through that period of time is just by sitting in my studio and just create something beautiful. That is the way I look at it. That's why I tackle the problem. I got nobody to refer to. I got no more father, basically. Both my parents passed away. And my baby brother was sick by that time as well. So the only time for me is to change that energy from that sad energy, change that totally, turn that over 360 degrees and put that energy into the artwork. So throughout that hardest time, actually, my way to escape, my way to make myself happy is to create beautiful work. And up till now, I'm very grateful that, again, as I said, even though I ran through quite traumatic experiences to certain things, but the best way for me to handle it is to twist everything around. That is, talk about your work. You're dealing with big community. You're dealing with projects. And for me, I don't have the energy to do that because, it's because of I have to tackle my personal thing. So my community project is actually between me and my family. So again, no matter what, I think the best thing, as long as we know how to channel the energy, how to make it from negative to positive, I think at the end of the day, everything will be fine. Sorry.
No. Family is community.
Yeah.
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 That is a community of people.
Yeah. So I think that's the reason why I found it very interesting about the session this afternoon is we are talking about two different, atmosphere over here. You're dealing with few students. I rather be alone in my studio. And you deal with your future work will be still dealing with the community. But I'm still healing up. But I'm doing that process to producing my work. So I think we are very fortunate this afternoon because we can experience two worlds, two situations on one platform. And at the end of the day, we need each other to complete the circle, isn't it?
Of course.
It's very interesting. Sorry, I didn't expect you would be like this, but it makes me think, because now basically it's the real time that we can sit and talk about and bounce stories and ideas.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting.
Yeah, we've been trying to get together to speak, but
no.
we keep working.
We
And so when we had before you came in, we were actually getting to know each other even more and seeing talking about the things we have in common and the things we're going through now as artists.
Yeah. And that's why I say it's very interesting that, you with community, just leave me alone for the. But again, at the end of the day, that is the yin and yang. That is, we complete the circle.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Any more questions? Or more crying session?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Yanira for sharing all this. And apologies from the mean curator who makes you go back to work so you guys can't talk.
Yeah. I have my dirty clothes in the back.
Yeah, and let me make a statement here. 2 weeks is not enough, though. 2 weeks that were not enough. We're supposed to have fun, Laura. We're supposed to go out and have fun. Like 2 weeks not enough.
That's why I brought the mattress and the gallery and the pillows and everything and stuff.
Yeah.
So I need to practice on my care.
No, it's been so far a lovely experience. I haven't been here. I can't tell time anymore. But how long have you been here? When did they get here?
I arrived here on Thursday, 1 week today, 1 week today. But they forced me to work like hell. I already feel like, can you imagine?
Yeah.
And then when you guys get to talk, we put you in a black box with no windows.
Exactly, thank you.
We'll get you back into the gallery and close the curtains.
Yeah, but thank you very much. It is a, you know, it's a very beautiful journey. It's very, very beautiful journey. You know, I remember before, when I was in New York, I was thinking like, oh, okay, I don't know whether this is going to be interesting or not. Again, it's because of when I was in India like 4 weeks ago, I'm dealing with, you know, like maybe 50, 60 people. And again, thank you, Laura. You know, when you came to the gallery in New York and we discussed about this, and I just said, I just, you know, I'm looking forward to be here, but at the same time, I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to kill myself, put it that way, because of it's a beautiful journey, but as a normal human being, we discussed before quickly, we said we cannot make ourselves like this all the time because we will burn out at the end of the day. And it's quite interesting because she, you know, we basically, you know, been through the quite similar situation.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I found that the journey here is very interesting. And I always believe that, you know, up till now, it's not about the destination. It's not about the big piece I'm going to put on the wall next week. But the journey towards that, you know, like preparing it, running around as Brian, Laura, poor Rudy. You know, like I said, Rudy, I need your help here and there. So I think that makes the journey interesting. It's because of the people, you know, the characters, you know, that for me, that is the best experience, you know, that we can't buy.
Yeah. Enjoying that process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And meeting you too. Very nice.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm grateful to be here too and to enjoy the process because I've had a lot of different processes since being here and getting to know Anne, which I was looking so forward to, and to know that she's such a lovely human being, it just makes it even better. You know, that the work is so honest and genuine to her experience. So, thank you. Thank you, Brian, too.
To Brian, too.
Thank you for asking us to be here, for asking me and trusting.
Yeah, and in defense of myself, I've told them, you need to break. You need to go. You need to stop working at 5:30. It's like, we'll worry about that next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you both. And
Thank you. Thank you.
so
Okay,
please
bye.
come back. So please come back Thursday when everything is done, and Yanira and Anne will be so relaxed and you knowing.
What time?
What time?
5 p.m. 5 p.m. 5 to 7. And you know what? We also have an exhibitions newsletter that everybody can sign up for, and they get emails about all our free events that are open to everyone. So please come back Thursday at 5 p.m.
And at the same time, if you want to come to my studio, please. I know that the door actually closed, but you're welcome to pop by anytime. Yeah? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the conversation.
Yeah.